Hello, thank you all for being here in this session. I'm John from Taiwan National CERT, and my partner is Andy. Today, Andy and I are very happy to have an opportunity to share our works in cybersecurity with you. Our topic is IDACUT, a framework for inspecting DNS anomalies crossing on certain times. This is our outline today. First of all, we are going to make a brief introduction about ourselves and introduce the code text of Taiwan National CERT for those who may not know TWN CERT well. Secondly, we work through the diverse DNS security threats which we face in Taiwan today. Next, let us dive into today's topic directly. Andy will talk about how we built our framework to discover the suspicious and underneath activities of adversaries by DNS rakers. Lastly, we are going to conclude our works and provide some key takeaways for you. Section 1, who we are and about TWN CERT. Okay, my trust name is Tsai Han, but please call me John. I lead our endpoint security team. We focus on detecting email threats such as mail spam and spam phishing attacks against Taiwan government agencies. We are also doing much research about network forensics, malware analysis, and threat hunting. Andy leads the Applied Intelligence team and the National Security Operations Center for Taiwan government agencies. He is responsible for the implementation of the Security Online Analytical processing for Taiwan Government Service Network. His research covers network threat analysis and data ETL architecture. We, TWN CERT, is also known as NCST, which is National Center for Cybersecurity Technology in Taiwan, and was established in 2001. We established cybersecurity protection mechanism for NISST to provide technical service to government agencies, such as security protection before the incident, early warning and responses during the incident, and of course, recoveries and forensics after the incident. NCST is supervised and conducted by the DCS, which is the Department of Cybersecurity. We NCST perform cybersecurity-related tasks and missions. We also cooperate with other agencies in the Internet Defense and Internet Crime Investigation System. Here is our core mission. We release early warnings before evolving into a security incident through long-term monitoring and external information gathering. We execute the cyber drill, cybersecurity audit, and technical inspection to increase the preparation of cybersecurity protection. We assist in speedy recovery to normal operation by providing technical support to cybersecurity incidents for government agencies. Moreover, we participate in international cybersecurity organization and events as TWN CERT to increase cybersecurity information exchange. Regarding the early warning, we established an early warning mechanism for intelligence gathering. We collect network attack information through internet threat entrapment. We also gather information from the backbone gateway of the government service network using some DPI mechanism. And we actively detect advanced persistent threats at the level of government agencies. For the comprehensive defense, we promote government configuration baseline (GCB) and specify a consistent security setting of government information and communication device to reduce hackers' attack channels. Via a joint defense monitoring system of cybersecurity, we analyze the trend of cybersecurity threats to achieve early warning and strengthen cybersecurity information sharing. Through cybersecurity audit and technical inspection, we assist government agencies in grasping cybersecurity status and ensuring the effectiveness of the cybersecurity defense system and control measure. In addition, we hold cyber drills every year, reinforce the incident reporting and responding skills of government authorities to increase the defense capabilities against cyber attacks. We are responsible for maintaining national cybersecurity incident report and response platform. We assist government agencies and CI sectors to report and handle cybersecurity incidents. We also provide technical services to government agencies to deal with cybersecurity incidents, assist them to process emergency response procedures, and discover root cause of different security incidents to reinforce cybersecurity defense. We do research and develop detection rules of malware and utilize them to discover compromised government authorities in time. For information sharing, we established domestic and international channels of cybersecurity incident reporting and joint defense collaboration. We rapidly grasp cybersecurity threats intelligence through standardized formats such as sticks and our automatic system. You can see that our national SOC, ISAC, and CERT construct our national cybersecurity joint defense system. Next, let's walk through the diversity and security threats which we face in Taiwan. Okay, first we want to ask why DNS. Because DNS is critical to most network operations, it is generally not blocked under firewall. So there are many attacks related to DNS protocol. Let's talk about DDoS first. DDoS is one of the most powerful weapons cybercriminals use to attack business by flooding servers with more internet traffic. There are many DDoS attacks via DNS protocol, including amplification and water torture. Besides, we all know hackers may have different possible objectives. They may aim to interrupt business, corrupt data, steal information, or all of these simultaneously. DNS is one of the best channels for criminals to hide their activities whenever they try to break into a network or exfiltrate valuable data from the organization. Many botnets utilize Fast-flux or DJA techniques to hide their infrastructures and increase the difficulties of tracking them from law enforcement and security vendors. On the other hand, DNS tunneling is one of the most damaging DNS attacks, in our humble opinion. This technique is difficult to detect because DNS is a noisy protocol, making it harder to distinguish a normal host query and normal DNS traffic from malicious activity in a situation without any indicators or assumptions. Let's walk through the attacks or techniques related to DNS protocol. The first one is DNS amplification, a popular form of DDoS. Attackers use publicly accessible open DNS resolvers to flood a target system with DNS response traffic. The primary technique consists of an attacker controlling a botnet to send a domain name root request to many open DNS resolvers with the source address spoofed to be the target's IP address. When the DNS resolver sends the DNS record response, it is sent to the target instead. Different from DNS amplification, DNS water torture mainly focuses on a target DNS server. To pull off a DNS water torture attack, an attacker leverages a botnet to make thousands of DNS requests for fake subdomains against an authoritative name server. The requests of non-existent subdomains or hosts will consume the memory and processing resource on the primary resolver. If we examine the DNS request, each request appears to be a randomly generating string of nonsense. Fast-flux is a technique that involves frequent and rapid changing of the IP addresses associated with a fully qualified domain name by using a botnet acting as a reversing process. There are two types of fast-flux service networks, which are single-flux and double-flux networks. A single-flux network usually related to a single domain name and combines the round-robin DNS response with very short TTL, which is time to live values. At the expiration of TTL, new IP addresses replace the old ones for those DNS records in the DNS zone file. Thousands of fast-flux agents IP addresses are used in a cyclic order for DNS record. Double fast-flux or double flux is a more sophisticated type of fast-flux. Double flux refers refers to dynamically and repeatedly changing the IP addresses of both the domain name and its authoritative name servers, with a very low TTL value as well. This provides an additional layer of redundancy and survivability within the malware network. Domain generation algorithm, also called domain flux, is another technique used to periodically generate many domain names like provide malware or botnet to beacon or communicate their command and control servers. Many domain names for CNC servers make it difficult for law enforcement to shut down botnets or criminal infrastructures effectively. DNS tunneling is a technique that encodes data or other programs or protocols in DNS queries, including data paddles that can be added to an attacked DNS server and used to control remote server and applications. Since DNS is rarely monitored and analyzed, so attackers can use tunneling in order to remote access compromised computers without triggering any security event. It's very hard to differentiate the benign and malicious usage of DNS protocol for the traditional firewall or IDS. And you can find lots of DNS tunnel tools online easily, including freeware and commercial ones, such as DNS Cat2, DNS2 TCP, and others, Metasploit and Cobalt Strike. Here we want to mention Cobalt Strike particularly. Since 2019, the compiled source code of the Cobalt Strike had been leaked online and forked more than hundreds or thousands of times. We observed and detected more and more intrusion incidents related to Cobalt Strike from last year. Cobalt Strike is a commercial full-featured remote access tool that is designed to execute targeted attacks. Cobalt Strike's interactive process exploit capabilities cover the full range of minor attack tactics, all executed within a single integrated system. Besides, Cobalt Strike leverages the capabilities of other well-known tools such as Metasploit and Mimikatz. According to MITRE ATT&CK Enterprise metrics, many adversary groups may communicate using the DNS protocol to avoid detection and network filtering by blending it in with existing traffic. Here are some adversary groups which use DNS tunneling techniques in their attack operations. Some of them are especially targeting the governments and in industries in Taiwan. Okay, next let's talk about how we build our framework to discover the underneath activities of adversaries by DNS records.
Okay, let us take a quick view with the overview of our IDACUT framework. First, we will talk about the challenge. The data NS challenge in Taiwan government service network is the complex network topology, the same as many Tier 1 level network does. The complex network topology is due to the agency have their own domain zones and the necessary open DNS resolvers, and also the agency may have their own NAT. So the DNS queries could be ambiguous and noisy when an intruder is trying to abuse an open resolvers when there are also many normal behaviors. It is necessary to build a scalable analyzing system with good performance for digesting daily DNS logs. As we know, the average amount of the daily DNS logs is more than 100 million records, so the system needs to ingest the log in real time. Fortunately, in order to provide analytical capabilities, we had established a lambda architecture. First, we leveraged the modern ELK model, and we use the log stage for the log collection and the Kafka as the buffer. The partition topic is used for the parallelized processing. all the pre-analysis requirement and the data ingesting will be done through the Spark, which is the in-memory computing system. And after that, all the ingest data are then stored at the Cassandra, which is the scalable distributed data source once has used with the Facebook company. With the Lambda architecture, we then import an ensemble framework to satisfy our analysis process. The first one is the feature instruction, which is based on the DNS attribute we want to extract. The extract features will be provided to the two modules. The first is the domain attribute encoder, and the second is the subdomain encoder. Both two modules will help us to do the further analysis. Okay, let's go through the part 1, abnormal subdomain detection. The part 1 will be the abnormal subdomain detection. As we mentioned earlier, the major feature to identify the DGA domain is the pseudo-random domain. So, in order to detect the DGA-based subdomain, we leverage the long short-term memory neural network model to identify it. The detection method is proposed by the endgame company. The subdomain is transferred to the character table. In order to train the model, the initial top 100 million are used as the benign domain, and the malicious domain are gathered from the non-malware family. As we see, the LSTM model classifies almost 90% of the DGA domains with very low false positive, so it looks well, right? But according to our observation, DNS queries from security vendors may just act as the same DGA way. We can see that DGA's detection methods are somehow limited. Many security companies also behave like DGA as an example, such as the Tremicro, Mafree. They just look like the DGA queries. By the way, the DNS tunnel also looks like the DGA way as the last one you can see. So, as a result, we can see from the following three pictures, the middle and the right figures use the K-means and the Gaussian mixture model for the clustering respectively. However, the actual data distribution is just like the far left, so it will cause difficulties in the data grouping. In order to improve the real-world data flow, we have made the following improvements. First, we will adopt real-world data to reveal similar DGA like DNS queries from AV vendors. And the second, we fill out the corresponding domain name through the FQD and the high portion of the antivirus vendor to feedback the whitelist to assist us in the data reduction. So far, the whitelist will contribute a huge progress with this model. Okay, then we will come to the part 2. The part 2 will be the domain name reputation. As we mentioned earlier, the major feature to identify the DGA domain is the pseudo-random domain. The second part we will discuss why we use the domain name reputation. In real world, inspect with every QDN is not efficiency. For example, the DNS query behaviors generated by the security vendors such as the table shows account for very large portion of the DNS traffic. So we need a reputation mechanism for domain name. And then let us recap the DNS tunnel behavior. Many malicious software use the DNS tunnel to steal data and establish command and control communication channels by abusing DNS mechanism. The main focus is to register the domain name and the hosting authoritative DNS server, which is used for the recursive query to report the user's registration behavior, which is so called as the DNS Beacon. By owning specific domain zone, collecting all the non-exist domain belongs to it, and all the message is encrypted and encoded as a part of subdomain. Therefore, this is the biggest challenge to detect this domain zone registered by the DNS tunnel. Okay, so take the DNS behavior of the Cobalt Strike as the example. Cobalt Strike is the most common hacking tool in recent years to understand the character of the DNS tunnel behavior. During the Cobalt Strike tool works, first, it will generate a large number of DNS queries to ensure reliability. The encrypted message inside the DNS query could be sent multiple times. So also in the beacon mode, the C2 server doesn't respond anything, so it will generate large number of the non-exist domain responses. So there are many detection methods. Many use this feature to detect this behavior, and the Cobalt Strike DNS tunnel change operation mode according to the response, as you can see in the table shows. That only with the few kinds of DNS response also in the DNS idle status. Also, when it's switching to the command and control mode, it will use abusing the T-T DNS queries when client gets specific responses. So we can see, as the table shows, only few DNS responses type and the characteristics of domain name length is the feature we observed. Based on the observation of the DNS behavior of these tools, we expected to extract these features as below. The first is the query count. Query count means the total number of the DNS queries. Second, the shape count. In the shape count, we calculate the length between each domain name as its shape. For example, the abc.example.com is treated as the third.example.com. ab.cdefg.example.com will be treated as 2.5.example.com. So the total shape count of the example.com will be 2. Okay, the third, the client count. The client count means how many clients have query domain for each domain zone. And fourth is the server count. The server count means how many servers has been used to query domains for each domain zone. The last is the answer count. The answer count means how many answers have been responded for each domain zone. And here's the DNS feature observation. As you can see, including the DNS tunnel, DNS amplifier, DDoS, water torture DDoS, and the normal service such as the CDN and the security vendor service. And the last is the DNS scanning service. The number, as we can see, the normal service CDN service has the balanced number of the users of their service, and the number of the queries has grown correspondingly. So that's the important feature, as we can see. So with the feature we extract from earlier model, we leverage the machine learning model such as the SVN and the random forest classifier for the tunnel domain classification. There are total 2,042 domains gathered for the experiment. The first experiment is the binary classification with the benign and the abnormal domain. As you can see, the table shows the accuracy of the random forest classifier is 98.6%, and the SVM model is the 96.2%. So it looks very well, right? And in the second experiment, the target data are extended to tar-node, CDN, and the benign domain for the multi-label classification. As a result, the random forest model still gets the 97.6%, and it is also better than the SVM model does. According to the above two experiment results, we can see that the extracted features are very effective in helping us for the classification of those behaviors. Okay, in the third part, we will use the previous extract domain features to develop a model for detecting anomaly in time series, that is the outlier detection. We will profile the domain zone behaviors to seek for the outlier such as the DNS tunnel. To detect abnormal cross uncertain times, we want to introduce the outlier detection in time series. Outlier detection is widely used in the industry and the medical area, including the defect detection. Even some medical equipment is used to detect the irregular heartbeat signal, such the Apple Watch we use. We hoped to use the same domain feature to apply the detection method with the LSTM anomaly detection, as the paper shows, and also the deep end, that a deep learning approach for unsupervised anomaly detection in time series is also doing that. So first, we create a domain detection indicator and use the long short-term memory model to memorize the normal behavior of this indicator. So, like the normal heartbeat, it will have relative regularity. The outlier, such as the abnormal raising signal, is used to detect malicious behavior. To adapt the data into the outlier detection method, first, we developed a domain indicator. The features of the domain count, shape count, and the client count, and answer count from the previous classification is also used here to construct the indicator. Now, with the DNS behavior indicator, the DNS behavior are transformed into the signal problem within the time series. Okay, and to detect the DNS tunnel behavior, we then use the outlier detection as means to detect it. First, we leverage the long short-term memory autoencoder technology to encode each domain. Then we reconstruct the indicator in the time window, such as 3 days, 5 days, and 7 days, or 1 or 2 hours. Maybe we can exceed the 2 minutes after all. And then using the reconstruction error rate with the autoencoder to determine which is the abnormal. The normal domain name behavior will be regular with low reconstruction rate, and the abnormal, such as the raising ECG signal, will cause the high coding error rate due to the deviation. So change detection for the active domain, such as the abnormal ECG, will be used as the detection of the active tunnel domain. In the experiment for outlier detection, we take 3 days as the time window for the detecting abnormal behavior. During the test, A total of the 3,453 domains names were used within the 171 days period. In the LSTM outlier model, we use the RMSE, which is the root mean square error, to choose the threshold for us. Here we can see the average domain name reconstruction error is much more less than 1, while the abnormal value exceeds 100 times than the normal value. A total of 5 sets of the actual malicious tunnel domains were detected in these 3 months by our model. So, final is the conclusion and the takeaways. In order to provide the capacity to process DNS behavior in a Tier 1 network, we first establish a Lambda data processing platform as the basis, and to inspect DNS anomaly closing uncertain time. In addition, we had built an ensemble framework that can share the same behavior characteristic for multi-purpose. First, we used to detect malicious behavior related to pseudo random domain. Here, we also use the machine learning methods such as SVN and the random forest to classify the DNS behaviors. The second part, to detect abnormal indicator in time series, we leverage the previous feature anomaly detection indicator. Techniques such as LSTM autoencoder are then used to memorize the normal and to identify for the outlier behavior, which is the DNS tunnel behaviors. This general method helps us to find anomaly in uncertain time. That's what we are talking about today. Thanks for your listening.
Finally, here are the key takeaways for everyone. Every organization should develop or implement a formalized product or system to monitor the DNS traffic to ensure DNS service is used as intended. Audit DNS logs or records to verify that each type of query is resolving to intended location and targets. Use a DNS firewall or security products to block malicious domain names provided by security vendors or communities. Provide security awareness training to employees. It's very important, such as domain name cracking, DNS hijacking, phishing, and social engineering attacks. And the last but not least takeaway is the contact information of TWN CERT. We look for collaboration in many ways, and we can handle most of the cybersecurity incidents in Taiwan. Sharing and collaboration is the key to defending cybersecurity. Thank you for your time and attention. Goodbye.